or just so we have like or do you want me to kind of take notes separately? How do you want to do that?
One of us needs to, so I don't know. Do you want me to do it or do you want to do it?
I can do it. I can do that if you want to do the
Okay.
Okay, it looks like we have a live feed on YouTube.
Or do we have like or do you want me to kind of take notes separately? How do you want to do that? Oh, weird.
One of us needs that delay. So, you want me to do it or do you want to do
it? Yeah, how are we hearing the YouTube stream?
Yourself. Let me turn off my YouTube so we don't have a feedback. Okay, it looks like we have a live feed on YouTube. All right, there.
That's weird. It's like deja vu.
All over again. All right, so okay, we're up and running with YouTube, and we're up and running with recording the meeting. Now I'm going to hand the meeting over to Nick to make him host. Okay, Nick, you're the host now.
All right.
Then on the right side, have you used Zoom before? It's confusing.
Yeah, I have not.
Okay.
In this capacity, but
I'm
gonna make Paige co-host.
Okay.
And from there, Catherine, do you want to be co-host?
I'm happy to help out if you need me to.
I will make you a co-host just in case. And from there, I think I'm pretty much all set. What else are you going to say, Colby?
We're still waiting for Lee Jameson.
Oh, right.
Sometimes he has, he calls in on a phone or does some alternate access. And since you have Catherine as co-host, you might as well make Tess co-host as well.
Right.
I think Tess is co-host. I'm not co-host right now.
Okay, good. Okay, and then on the right side of the screen where you'll see attendees, and it says 1, I believe, and panelists says 5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You just wait. The public will generally come on, or public or people who aren't on your committee will come on it. Everyone comes on through attendees, and then mostly now it's the public or board members, our board members who aren't committee members on this specific committee. And you can click to the right of that name and unmute them if they have their hand raised and want to talk and whatnot.
Yeah, it looks pretty easy actually. Yeah, it looks pretty self-explanatory, really.
1 or 2 meetings, but it's not that bad. It's not that as intuitive as I want, but it does seem to work.
If Lee does not join, we still have enough people to proceed, right?
Yes, we have quorum right now.
Great. Okay.
Well, in that case, does anybody want to give Lee a call before we adjourn, before we call the meeting to order, so we can, or should we just go for it?
Let me see. I don't have.
Colby, did Lee express an interest to be on this committee?
He did. He was an email was sent earlier to say that he wanted to be on this committee.
Okay, he has trouble with email. Let me see if I can't. I'll reach him. Okay, so I'm going to mute myself. All right.
Okay.
I know he was previously on the committee, but.
Oh no, never mind. I do apologize. He wants to be on unhoused homelessness, public safety, and planning and land use. So he's not listed.
He doesn't want to be in this.
Something he wanted to be as. So that's from an email from somebody else. So if he wants to be here, it's fine for you to call him, Tess, but he's not on this. We're not listed on this list. So
I wasn't sure because he is listed here. I thought those are extra committees he wanted to be on in addition to.
Oh, okay. Well, then let's make the phone call then. I'm happy.
He was listed here because I saw that he was on the minutes from the previous committee. I saw that he was previously part of the committee. So I wasn't sure. So I put him to be safe, but.
Look at my notes from our meeting a few weeks ago. See if he's on there. Yeah, Tess, and please go ahead and keep trying to see if you can raise him.
pop this pizza in the oven real quick.
Okay, you know what? In my handwritten notes, I don't have his name written. I just have Tess, Paige, and Nick. So I really don't. I didn't have any indication that he wanted to be, except for the agenda. But
Okay.
Paige, if you got that from something else, then let's
Yeah.
proceed. You can proceed.
Okay. Great.
And I'll just listen for a few minutes and I might leave in a few minutes and see how
For people who can attend.
Sounds good. You know, I'm gonna turn my camera off because I always do too much, and I feel like it's like weird. If I wasn't in my living room. So yeah, so let's what do we do? Call to order
We
the
call
meeting.
it to order. Yeah.
So you're gonna want to say the time out loud.
Okay, so it is 6:40 p.m. and we are calling to order the outreach committee meeting of the Greater Toluca Lake Neighborhood Council. So we need to take a roll call. So Nick Baker is present. Catherine Hatton,
Here.
Paige, I don't know how to say your last name.
Good. You can just go with Cram. I'm
Cram?
here, obviously.
Yeah. Here. And Tess Taylor.
Here.
Thank you. Colby Jensen is not, I don't know that you're
not on the board. So
not on the board, so it doesn't matter. So you are here. Thank you very much. All right, so I will call the meeting to order. And I guess, Paige, if you want to take over with the agenda, do you want to do that, or do you want me to lead it?
Well, I mean, I'm going to take notes. It might be easier if you.
So that I will do the. Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
You take the notes, and I will lead the meeting then.
Okay.
There you go. I do. Take
That's
it
okay.
easy on me here. Okay, so the first attendance. Now the minutes. We have to approve and we have to review and approve the committee minutes from June 9th, 2021.
Yes.
Can I
And
get a
those,
second?
those were sent out.
Now, may I make a comment? Since I wasn't at that meeting and I'm not sure who among us was, is it
Only
appropriate-
Catherine.
Yeah, is it appropriate for us to approve them? I don't think so, but just asking.
Well,
It's out of an abundance of caution, it's best to, if you were not in attendance at the meeting, abstain from the vote. I would say if anyone did attend it but was not a committee member at the time, that's a gray area, but I think it would be okay to vote. But if you weren't at the meeting, I would recommend against voting on this.
That's what I
motion.
thought.
Okay.
Thank you, Catherine.
That makes
then we'll go with
sense.
that. All right.
Yeah,
So can
But
we?
I will first the motion. Nick, did you read the motion?
I did.
Okay.
Motion A to approve the GLTNC June 9th, 2021 elections and outreach committee minutes. The full text of which can be found at gltnc.org. So yes, that is yes, that is a motion A.
Catherine will first.
Okay. Catherine is a first.
So can anyone second if none of the rest of us were there?
I would say you can second and then abstain.
Right.
Okay. I'll second it then.
There you go. And so we'll bring it to vote.
Catherine votes yes.
Okay.
And I suppose no one else is allowed to vote.
And
Right.
I abstain and everyone else abstains. So
I
there
abstain
we
as
go.
well. So then on the line where we record the vote, is it yes, no, and then other? Where there's
Yeah,
like,
so it would be 1, 0, 3.
But would abstentions be yeses in this case?
oh, right.
Okay, we're not doing that. Our bylaws are nonsense.
I
At that
think
point,
it passed.
we always record abstentions as the third space. It's yes, no, abstentions.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I love it. Okay, even there's and then we could list them as abstentions maybe, but anyway. Okay, so moving on. Public comment. Do we have anybody today for public comment? We have 2 minutes per speaker.
Does not look like we have any members of the public, but Sean is participating. So I suppose if he wants to comment, we can give him a minute.
Right, Sean, do you have anything to say, or you want to just be part of the meeting?
I just want to be part of the meeting and just,
Cool.
I'm just here. I'm here to support you guys.
Aw.
I'm trying to participate, man. I'm doing what I can, trying to learn.
Cool.
Appreciate that.
Wow.
And you are more than welcome to be here.
I appreciate your help and your support and your mind, because you always seem to contribute a nice keel to the meeting. So okay, so moving on to the agenda items. Let me put my computer back here. So we have committee member news and announcements. Who would like on the committee would like to speak about news and announcements? Okay, don't everyone raise your hands at once.
It's gonna be an easy meeting.
Am I doing this incorrectly, or is this not the way this goes?
Nick,
Oh, you're doing it right. I think Tess wants to say something.
Oh, Tess, please.
hi guys. So I don't know if this is more appropriately saved for the discussion of tools and outreach. So I will just comment briefly and then elaborate further on in the agenda. That we measure our current outreach, our numbers. I had a quick look at what we've got, that we establish a goal based on our current numbers. Should we try to double them within a year? I think that's feasible. I want us to review our average meeting attendance, both committees and general board, and look at ways to improve attendance and outreach, because as Sean said at a meeting yesterday, he talks to people about the Greater Toluca Lake Neighborhood Council all the time and nobody knows we exist, at least those folks that he's talking to. We should look at YouTube views, subscribers, and number of videos. I know that that is a relatively recent addition to our outreach tools, but it's great, and let's see how we can grow it. Look at voter turnout, how to increase that, the number of people in the district, which is approximately 12,500 right now. I was just attending a redistricting meeting right before this one, and it looks like we're going to be getting more people in this district probably as soon as the US Census results come out. And that, I think, is an opportunity. So I will delve into more detail when we get to that agenda item. So that's my comment.
Wow. Tess, we are very happy to have you. That's some good stuff there. And anybody else? I mean, I suppose, I would just like to talk briefly about, sort of the goals of what we're trying to do here. I feel that this is a critical part of what we do. I know that Paige feels the same way. I know that a lot of us do. We need to be out there. What we're doing, it has to be echoed. Like, our job is to tell our constituents what the city is doing. And our job is to dispel disinformation, and our job is to champion successes, and our job is to hold politicians accountable when there's failures. And that needs to be something that people can see and view and easily get an idea of what their neighborhood council is doing for them. And I don't really feel that that is currently in a cohesive, way. And I believe that the team that we have here today can accomplish that. And I'm very excited to work with all of you on this, because I think it's something that is very easy to do relatively. I think we can use a nice mixture of print and digital advertising assets. I know that, Paige works for the city of Los Angeles, doing their tourism stuff.
I work for the tourism board.
The tourism board,
technically separate from the city itself, but
I
yes.
do apologize. but Paige is very good at what she does. And it's right along this this alley. I own a business. I've been in the website business and doing stuff like that for years, and I'm excited to really dig my hands into the website, figure out what we can change there. And you know, where the budgets are for all this kinds of stuff, and how we can effectively spend our budget on outreach to let the public know what A, we're going to do for them, and B, what the city is doing for them. And you know, I think that's our job. I think it's a huge part of our job. And I take it very seriously, and I hope you know, we can all hold ourselves accountable, and the buck stops here. You know, if we have a website that's complicated and it's screwed up, well, then it's my job to fix it. That's why I'm here. And I hope we can hold ourselves accountable in that way as well. So with that, does anybody else have any comment on the board?
This is something that I was sort of holding for new business, but since you brought up the website and improvements to it, I think it would be great for all of us on this committee to really look at the website. I mean, you know, I just was looking at the Our Community page, and it still lists David Rue as our CD4 district council member. And, you know, we should take a look and make sure that everything's up to date when it comes to the names and the contact information that's on that page. We have an initiatives page, which is pretty much focused on, you know, planning related stuff, because that was the focus of a previous administration. But, you know, we've done things since then, and I think it would be great for us to get a little more current in highlighting these, because a lot of these are things that are from quite a while ago. And they're great to be able to say, hey, we did these things, but it'd be nice for us to have a little more of what we're currently working on there.
Yeah, let's
That's a great point.
let's with that move on to the new business, because let's talk about the website.
If you don't mind, Nick,
Yeah, of course. Yes, please.
I was on the call today. I called Tin at TYS, who's our account representative and for our, obviously, our website. And you know, he's sending me over. I want to know. I said, what are we getting for $500 a month? Because it costs me $2.88 a month to host my website. And
Right.
and he seemed, you know, open to discussing that, or just saying, you know, it would be fairly simple for us, apparently, you know, I'm trying to say, technically, to take over the website fully and completely, or maybe a hybrid version where they assist us in maybe restructuring the website, and then we can run it more. But luckily I didn't get any pushback by, you know, we're not locked into any contract. He's going to send me the original contract and an updated contract that was signed by, I think it was Ryan Altoon a few administrations ago. And he seemed very cooperative and open. So I'm very happy, because there's so many things on this website, and it's very hard. It's like pushing a string in a way, because you have every little thing you see, then you have to tell, you know, a third person to go ahead and fix that little thing, go in the circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
No, okay. So
It's
that's
not efficient.
right. That's not. Yeah. That's not the way a website should ever
I
work.
know. And it's WordPress. It's not that complicated.
Oh, if it's WordPress, then yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
It might just be a matter of creating logins for the board members that are more familiar with that technology that can go
And I do
in.
have to, you know, make sure you know, if I do share access, I want to, you know, make sure that everyone's experienced in WordPress, because something could go wrong by accident. It could be a messy thing to fix. But I did have a nice conversation with TYS today, and they seem very open to us taking the full reins, or maybe at a reduced cost, them helping us with everything also, if we want to really restructure it. So
I'm happy to look at it. What I would like, Colby, and what I would like, I think is reasonable. I think it's reasonable that the board, at least the executive board, have access to the website. I won't change anything. I'll surely get any approval, if you like, from you before I make any wholesale changes. What I'd like to do is just stick my hand, you know, stick my hand up its whatever, and see what's there. Like, I don't know.
Look under the hood is probably the
right. That's the
thing
word.
you're
That's
looking for.
that,
Yeah.
not yes. That was I was thinking puppet. That's what I was thinking. I was thinking of,
Yeah.
Too much.
I don't know why I had to go look under the hood because that's
Skirting some dangerous
Thank you.
language there.
Yes, thank you.
Borderline dangerous, Nick.
Thank you for keeping me in check there. So anyway, let me look under the hood and see what it looks like there. There is a WordPress template that I sent to Paige. I meant to send it to you this afternoon so you could have a look at it. I didn't really dig too far into it, but something like 2,500 municipalities have seen to use the $69 WordPress theme that updates very easily and has a simple back end and all kinds of stuff. And it looks relatively easy to set up. And I'm happy to, look under that hood as well and make sure that, it could be something that's viable and easy to use. Because here's the biggest thing, whatever happens, anything that I set up, I need to be able to completely let go of, and somebody can easily walk in and do it again.
Yeah,
and take over the reins. And that's
the wheel. I think, and I'll take this offline with you. I'd love to sit down with you one-on-one with a computer. I work that way. This remote stuff is hard. I'd love to sit down with you one-on-one and really look at it. And I'd love to I think we could probably, work with what we have. And that I don't really want to start over if we don't have to. But
I mean, I think whatever conversation you're going to have with them, it would be helpful, like if there's an opportunity for us to be part of that, because there's some specific questions that I would have for TYS. I mean, in terms of, it's good to know that it's built in WordPress, but is it a custom built website in WordPress, or is it using one of the already existing templates? Those are the types of things.
It is custom built. I can tell you that. And TYS actually did not do most of the initial build. My understanding is that another entity had started it and had never completed it. And then we ported it over to TYS. So they were working with another organization's custom template, I believe.
Got it.
Not for nothing, but that sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, TYS didn't love it either.
Yeah, TYS is actually, they actually would be, they're very nice, and they would be okay with it. They're happy to see us come. They're happy to see us leave.
That's fine. What I'm not happy to do is pay $500 a month for something that I'm absolutely positive that they do not deserve. Well, I don't want to talk about deserve. I just, whatever it is, I just do not think that we need to spend that money because that just feels crazy to me. So,
okay. So we you guys, I might step off the meeting, but I want you to know I'm moving forward with that, and
I will. You know what? Are you available for the rest of the week? Because I'm not. No, next week. Early next week would be okay. Email me, and we'll meet up about that. Okay.
Can I ask a question before you leave, Colby?
Yeah. Yes, Tess. 2
questions. What is the name of the TYS guy that you talked to? I didn't catch that.
His name is Tin, T-I-N. Let me get his last name.
And he's the principal of TYS?
Yeah.
His last name is Y-E-N. And I'm not sure of the corporate structure at TYS, but when I spoke with him before, and I believe when I inquired yesterday to Sean, who's my general go-to guy at TYS, I said, please, can I talk to the account manager for our account?
Okay.
And then he forwarded Tin's, and Tin called me today.
Okay,
so
good.
I spoke with Tin once or twice before.
So he's our account manager. Okay, bonus question. Do we have Google Analytics set up and hooked to our website?
I don't know. I think I'd have to be in the back end to see that.
Okay.
I'm sure we do. I mean, I would hope.
I mean, you can't, if it's not, if it's not, and you're paying somebody $500 a month, I'm going to sue them.
Yeah. And thank you for that, Colby. So I think we all know what Google Analytics is, and we have to look at usability and user experience, which is basically the flow of what are people looking at most or trying to look at the most. And I mean, I'm going through a huge website redesign right now, and I've got such a great guy, so amazing. But
you might be helpful.
Yeah.
Do you use Google AdWords or AdWorks?
Yeah. Not at the moment, but perhaps soon. I have a pretty complex situation here that I mean, a lot of the website that I'm having redesigned has parallel components to the neighborhood council, the Greater Toluca Lake Neighborhood Council one, but we have gotten massively useful information from user analytics.
Yeah.
And, you know, because I'm actually changing some major components of the business in order to better accommodate what people want. And if people, you know, spend 1 second on a page, on a, you know, landing page or otherwise, and then immediately bounce off, I mean, you can tell a lot from user interaction, where they're going and where they're not going, and that can be used to optimize the website in many useful, practical, and simple ways. So
that's something that maybe where TYS can be helpful, if they could provide a report based on the analytics to us on some of those recommendations. Then we don't.
We should have direct access to Google Analytics, and it should.
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, given that we haven't had the historical data,
you don't have access to Google Analytics, or do you not know?
I haven't checked.
It's probably going to be all right. So you and me and Paige, you should probably be there too, because it feels to me like you probably need to have input into this meeting that we have. So, I think it's fair.
Nick, I haven't signed into the back end of the website. I just received the password the other day, so I haven't had the password myself.
No, but it should be on your Google console. And conceivably it should be somewhere in your Google console. I don't know exactly how they would have it set up.
Well, it depends on how they have it set up. There should
be a master Gmail email that goes through everything. And
the website isn't linked to my Google account. Because
what I would say is try signing into Google Analytics with if there's a general GTLNC email that's either Gmail based or is G Suite based, then you should be able to use. I don't know, whatever the master.
It'd be worth just asking the account manager
at
TYS
sorry.
who has access to the analytics, and if we haven't ever historically had them, you know, could that access be provided? Because we would all love to sort of take a look at that.
Sure, definitely.
Sorry.
Okay. I'll talk to Tim.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I have a feeling that we'll you know, do some fairly significant revamping.
Yeah, I mean, if they can help us do a redesign, great. But I don't know. We'll see.
We have to start with a level set, right? Like we have to figure out, like to Catherine's point, we have to kind of do an audit of what's there. We have to take a look at the analytics and see what people are looking at, see what the traffic looks like, and then make decisions based on that.
But what I'm wondering, and this is why he's sending me the agreement that was signed by Ryan a few years ago, is that maybe this $500 that we're spending per month, it might include their labor or work to change the website, you know, as we go. We might have been paying all this money, you know, it might include some jumbo package that includes a major restructuring of the website when we want it redone.
It may also include things like monthly reports on analytics that we haven't been getting and are entitled to. So, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of things that they could be providing for that amount.
Well, then let's see if we can set up a meeting with this Tin Yen fellow sooner rather than later. I'll try to get in touch with him tomorrow.
Well, let me reach out to him. He'll get him confused if a lot of people come at him at one time.
Yeah.
Sending me, I believe tomorrow, the next day, he's sending me the agreement between GTLNC and so I want to see where the baseline is and see what we're getting. And let me look at that first, and I'd be happy to forward that to you, Nick.
Why don't Paige and I will generate a series of questions for him, and we'll send it over to you, and you can forward it to him and have him answer them and send it back to us. Does that sound okay?
That sounds good. Okay, cool. I'm gonna jump off, but good job. I'm really proud of you guys running this meeting so smoothly so far. And Nick and Paige will talk real soon about what.
Colby, when you forward that agreement with TYS, could you send me a copy as well? I'd just like to see what's been included. That would be good to know.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Bye, Des. Thank you. Bye, everybody. Good night.
Bye, Colby. Thank you.
Bye, Colby.
Wow. Well.
Okay. Well, that was one of the big items that I'm glad we got a chance to talk about.
Yes. Number 2 is ye old Facebook page. Wait, no, that is not number 2. It might be number 2, but I'm not looking at the agenda. Well,
I think now we're in the ongoing business, which
ongoing, we sure are.
So that section was really based on the minutes that
Here we are. Yeah.
reviewed from the last meeting.
Yeah.
And so I was hoping maybe Catherine could give us a little bit more insight, but there were specific recommendations made by the previous version of this committee to us.
Right.
And those recommendations included like a fact sheet or kind of onboarding for new board members, which is something that I do think would have been helpful, and clearly does not exist yet. And as an outreach, that falls sort of separate and apart from the website, social media stuff. And then the other thing was that in those minutes, it also said that there had been previous discussions about having the newsletter, website, social media, kind of under the purview of the outreach committee, which I also think makes sense, but was just curious because we saw the reference in the minutes. It's nice to know kind of where those discussions left off and whether they'd ever been had with the larger board, or whether they were just sort of discussed at that one last meeting.
Yeah. So as far as sort of an internal training packet, that was something that had been discussed in outreach, because outreach and elections, the committee was sort of lead on elections. And so it felt a bit connected to making sure that the people who are elected get trained. And, we didn't actually end up producing anything prior to this cycle, but I've been working a little bit with Colby and Robin more recently. And if I can screen share for just a moment, I can show you a sample of one of the things we were looking at, sort of putting together, which is just a little like, simple infographic for, and this has not been proofread. So if there are typos, please forgive, but, putting together little training, just try to do a one sheet on things like, here's what you need to know as a committee chair. Here's what you need to know as a board member. Because I think, in the past, when we've been in person during these transitions, Dunn has given us this pretty hefty folder full of information. And it's not necessarily specific to GTLNC, like it is for all neighborhood councils, and it's very informative, but it's a lot of pages and a lot of text, and it can be overwhelming and repetitive. And I think that we would benefit from pulling out some of the key points that we especially need to remember, and producing these sorts of one sheets. And again, this is very rough and it's a template. So
may I ask you, Catherine, this treasure trove of documents you just mentioned, where is it again, please, to be found?
It is physically in a folder that was handed to me a couple years ago.
So a physical folder, not a digital folder.
No. It's a folder filled with papers that is on my desk right now.
There's got to be those PDFs.
I wonder if
somewhere.
That's what they've replaced with these like training sessions that are happening in like modules. I wonder if like that's the content that they're going over in those kind of Zoom.
To some extent, but certainly the first module that I took, and I don't think they've had any others yet.
No.
It didn't cover this sort of thing. The stuff in this is things about Brown Act, items that you need to know that have to be on agendas. For instance, some ADA compliant language that needs to be there, including the size of the font. There is some actual specific stuff in these, and this document here isn't nearly that in depth. It's just really basic bullet points. But yeah, I would really, really strongly recommend that this be a goal, whether it is of this committee or whether we need to put it into another committee, be it exec or governmental, wherever we think it should live, to establish this sort of training setup for transitioning after an election, because, you know, it's hard as all of you new board members, everyone else on this call is new except me. It's overwhelming to show up and not know what any of the processes are.
I would say though that I would say that this is probably GA though, to be honest with you, because I feel like outreach is really with the public and not necessarily.
Yeah, but it is the Outreach and Elections Committee. I mean, that is what this committee is supposed to do. And so I do think that it could fall under, you know, and maybe it's not, maybe for now, the bigger priority, because we just had an election cycle, is, you know, is getting some of the outreach stuff figured out. But I do think, to Catherine's point, you know, that it could be a good goal for, you know, some point in this calendar year, so that these materials are prepared and ready for the next, because it would have been helpful for me, certainly. And I think even just establishing a process, you know, of onboarding for the new members. I mean, certainly I think that infographic that you put up, Catherine, is great. And when I first saw that, I was like, oh, that's exactly what would have been helpful. You know, in addition to things like getting the template for the agendas, you know, like things like that, that I felt like I had to kind of fumble around and ask for.
Yeah, like day one,
setting up access for everybody to the, exactly. So, I mean, I kind of do think that it could easily fall within this committee's responsibility, but I do think, you know, maybe first priority is getting our arms around the outreach tools. And then maybe that's a good priority for like later in the year when those things have been sort of tackled.
Yeah,
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Fair enough. That's really, I think they will figure. Yeah, because we're onboarding it. I think it's too late for us.
Yeah,
something for the next crowd, and we can, and surely I think that's just the best move, period. And I do not mean to punt something, but right now we got a lot to do. So
yeah,
I feel like that is something that can be effectively punted, and we're not chiding duty. So thank you for that. I agree. Does anybody else disagree? You're welcome to. But I think that's intelligent. Okay, great. Sounds good. Moving on. I think that we do need to address the social media issue. You know, looking at our budget and the way that it's done up, you know, we got some budget pictures, and I sent an email to Arthur today about you know, how the budget works, and, you know, who's going to make these decisions, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And there's already been, we already have the 2021 budget, you know, decided in a lot of ways. And I sent, are you serious with this?
I do want to emphasize that what has been sent to the city and approved by the city is an extremely minimal top line of 3 categories. And I'm going to not get them quite right, but it's essentially NPGs, operations, and I believe events is the other category. I can't remember exactly.
Well, I'm looking at it right now. So it's office expenses, professional services, community projects. But professional services took up, and that's the social media admin, took up $13,000 of the budget. We're looking at $3,600 for web hosting, which is, it just makes my head want to explode.
Yeah.
Supplies, I don't know what.
Which is actually more than $500 a month. So the other piece of that, we've been saying $500 a month. But...
That's ridiculous.
No, I think it's less, because wouldn't 3,600 be 300 times 12?
So
yeah,
6,000.
I guess that's a good point. Yeah.
Whatever. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. Whatever it is, it's wrong. It's gonna stop. And that's period. I will resign over it.
Yeah, I think it seems like we have some good next steps on that.
Because this is not. We're gonna settle that. I'm gonna settle that with him next week and find best steps for that. Because
Nick, I think as Catherine said, that was a preliminary budget, and all of that can be redrawn and reconfigured and redistributed. And I think I think that we need to have definitely a review and analysis. Are these people doing the job that we expected them to do? What's this, what's the standard market rate for this kind of service? What are we getting for our money? And then, take bids from other organizations that are, willing and able to do the work for a responsible fee.
And that's if we need to do that. I mean, I think there is also a valid question of whether or not those skills exist within the volunteers that are already participating on this board that are willing to do that.
I totally agree. There's been a resistance to that because for historical reasons, somebody made somebody else angry and then they were cut off, and that there's no reason for that anymore.
I certainly understand from like a consistency perspective and like a continuity perspective that, where there's board members changing over frequently, there's a benefit to having it be sort of a third party person that could be consistently maintained. I get that argument, but I also think that it's created some inefficiency for sure. There's nobody evaluating the success of what's happening. And then I also think that with the amount of money that's being spent on that, it's a real, it's a waste of resources. If we do have people, there are ways to make sure that the continuity can be continued, whether that's having more than one person who's taken on that responsibility that,
I agree. I totally agree. All true.
The current state of the city, there should be hundreds of people at these meetings.
Yeah.
And I mean, and it's just, people feel completely paralyzed and feel helpless, and they feel like they can't talk to anybody. And we're spending $15,000 a year saying, you can talk to us, but nobody's hearing it. And it's just baffled. I can't even, and she can't not be aware that I'm saying this about her and have been saying it for 2 months. So she's not even doing a better job. So I think we've lit this fire for a hot minute, and I'm not,
she may be unaware because she's not in any of these meetings, right? So,
okay, then.
Unless it's being passed on to her. I don't have
had the opportunity to find it out. And if she was going to be somebody who I would consider caring about her job, then I would imagine that she would want to have some sort of input into this. But
and I do think that to Lisa's credit, she is following directions. She is not here to we are not necessarily paying her to develop a full-on social media strategy. We are paying her to manage our social media as directed,
to post the things at the designated times.
So what we've hired her to do is not something that, I think we need to know what we asked her of her.
So that was a question that I had directed to Robin and Colby, and I'm sorry that we didn't get a chance to touch on this when Colby was still on the call, was, similar to, I was glad to hear Colby say that he had requested the contract, from TYS so that he could be familiar with what it is that we're paying for and whether we're actually getting what we're paying for. But we had basically asked the same question after Nick and I had spoken. We had asked the same question about Lisa, like, exactly what duties has she been given? And like, do we have a job description, or is there like a report that she prepares, or how exactly is that happening? And we didn't really get an answer. Robin was sort of just like, oh, those are really good questions, and I'm glad that you guys want to be involved, and we should sit down and talk about it. But we haven't really figured that out yet. So I do think that's the starting point, is let's figure out exactly what it is that she's supposed to do, that what she's doing now. And then, how can we either amend that, or are there certain things that we could be doing ourselves and sort of reducing the services that we're paying for? It does look like Sean has raised his hand.
Oh, buddy, feel free at any time, man.
I know. I don't want to interrupt the flow, because the flow is good and I like what I'm hearing.
Good.
This may sound silly, but why can't we just invite her to one of the meetings and ask her specifically what the heck she does?
That's a great idea. I don't actually have her contact information or a way to get in touch.
info@gtlnc.org.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure.
She does have an email, and it is, if you look in your Google Suite or Google Workspace contacts page and go to directory, you'll be able to find everyone else on the board's email, including Lisa's.
Okay, that's helpful.
Well, looking that's all kinds of fancy.
That is information that would go in that onboarding toolkit.
Yep.
Yeah, but I think, Paige and Nick, I hope that you press for there has to be some agreement or understanding with her as to what we're getting for the money. That's got to be more than just a handshake arrangement. And maybe she's doing precisely what she's supposed to be doing, but I'd like to review contracts and agreements to see what
There needs to be a list of deliverables with any contract that involves the internet. You need to have a set list of deliverables that the person performs every month to get paid. That is the way I have done every contract in my life, and it is the way to do it. So what we need to find out is what the deliverables that she is providing are first, and see if there's an answer to that, and then kind of go from there. But I want a job description of. I think Paige. I think you and I need, and then anybody else can add any questions they want, but we just need to make a master list of questions. And send it to her directly. I don't want to go through anyone else. I'll ask her directly. It's not.
So Catherine, quick question, because I did just try to go into the Google contacts, and it says there aren't any. Oh wait.
Make sure in the upper right-hand corner you're logged into the correct Google account.
No, sorry, but it's. I guess there's a difference between the directory and personal contacts. So
sorry. Yes. Yeah. The directory.
That's where it is. Okay.
Yeah. The directory is all of the email addresses that are under the GTLNC.org.
Got it.
Google Workspace.
Where is this
system?
Who if you
go to contacts.google.com.
Right.
If you have your GTNC,
I got it. Yeah, no, it's the little so it's the little 9 dot thing in the right, and then mine says no contacts either.
Yeah, but then you have to go below contacts. There's directory. So I guess the other question, this was something that came up, like who manages this Google Workspace, because that's another piece of all of this.
That is managed by the president. So right now it's Colby.
Okay. Why is that? Is that something that's in the bylaws, or is that just something he just does?
No, that's just how it has been managed in the past. Okay. Ryan managed it. Jason managed it. Colby is now managing it.
But like the emails for the board members who are no longer board members haven't been turned off. Those are still.
Some of them have not been. Yeah. And that is something that I know Colby is aware of and is working on figuring out how to get those closed out properly, because we want to make sure, especially for some of those folks that own documents on the shared drive, we want to make sure that we don't lose those when we delete the accounts.
That was something that I noticed when I got access to the drive folder for this committee, that like the owner of it is still Jason, and so we have to they have to assign ownership of it to at least someone else. Any changes could be.
I think it makes sense for the executive board to have access to the Google Drive. And I don't know. It just feels to me like there's so many features in this thing we're not using that could be so easily done that we're just like.
Yeah, and on the Google Drive note, which is sort of separate from outreach, but Colby and I actually had quite a long conversation looking through the drive, trying to make sure we knew where everything had ended up. And we're also exploring another option within Google Workspace to have a different kind of shared drive where when people leave, documents are not owned by individuals, they're owned by the workspace as a whole. So when someone leaves, you don't have to worry about transferring those files. We're trying to see whether or not we have that edition of Google Workspace for our subscription. So that is in process. We are trying to fix the Google Drive. I promise.
Okay, because
I have a
question.
A couple questions. Catherine, what is that part of our overhead, what we're paying for this Google subscription? And then a follow-up question to Pages, that if owner of documents is a previous board member, we need to close out previous board members and their email accounts. So what's the procedure for that? So the first question being, do you know what we're paying for our Google subscription?
Yeah, so and I don't recall exactly what it is off the top of my head, but I think it's a little over $100 each month.
That makes sense.
Which, I think they're usually like $6 or $8 per user. So
yeah.
I have a question.
Yes. Go ahead.
So do we know how many emails? Because I mean, technically there should be 14 emails that are prescribed to everyone. Do we know how many people?
Yeah, so there are 14 plus 1 for Lisa, our social media manager. Right now, it looks like there are 1, 2.
There are 18 in the directory 3, right now.
Yeah, 3
but that includes
former
a media email.
Yes, and the media email is related to our YouTube. And that was deliberately made as a separate email account so that when people transition off the board, we don't have to go through a whole rigmarole of transitioning the Google, the YouTube account to different people. It's just always owned by that email. But yeah, so we do currently, it looks like, have 3 former board members that still have open addresses. And I know that Colby is working on closing that out.
Okay. I mean, this may sound silly, but it's pen and email right now saying, hey, you've got X number of days to get what files you need because we need to close out on this. I mean, because it's just, to me, it's just fundamentally wrong that these people have access to our email accounts. I mean, and what level of access do they have? Do they just simply have an email address, or do they have admin rights to these emails?
Yeah.
Well, they have ownership of documents, which is, I think, the problem, because that ownership has to be transferred before.
Right.
That is what is really slowing down closing them, is wanting to make sure that we don't accidentally delete documents, because let me tell you, that happened. Someone closed their account in a way that wasn't quite right, and a whole bunch of stuff got deleted. And thankfully, most of it was able to be recovered because we caught it quickly. But yeah, it was a whole thing. So we wanted. I think it's okay to take our time on this specific thing right now. If it goes beyond another month, then it's probably then it's a problem.
Okay, just asking a question.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea, though. Catherine, if somebody, perhaps you or Colby, sends an email to the open account saying, you've got 1 month to clean up, and I think that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, they shouldn't expect to have access anymore anyway. It's not really a matter of what's happening with their documents. It's more a matter of what's happening with GTLNC historical records that are technically owned by that email account, and making sure that we transition the ownership of all of those documents correctly in the back end of the Google system.
So do we think it's a good, I think it sounds like at least one recommendation from this committee might just be that we just set a goal for when that would be accomplished. Yes. I think you're right. Taking the time to do that properly is important. I don't think the goal should be the end of the week or anything, but I think, it's definitely something we don't want to see drag on.
Yeah. End of this month, I think, is a completely reasonable goal.
Yeah. No, and they got to have time to get their stuff and whatever. It's not a huge rush. It's got to, it's anyway, another thing I know that, are we supposed to have like IDs and cards and business cards? Because I sure would like to give business cards to people when I say that I'm on the board.
Yes, in the past we have ordered business cards. I have a set somewhere that was handed to me a couple months before the pandemic, and then I stopped interacting with them. But yeah, we have previously ordered business cards. We don't really usually have IDs, but in the past, when we've met in person or had events, we have little badges that say our name and have the little seal, but it doesn't have like pictures and stuff. So we had those, and then of course we had nameplates for when we met in person to put in front of us.
I would say that there is little to zero to negative doubt that getting cards together and getting that done is our job. And it's something that I really want. So I'm happy to take the reins on that bad boy. And what is there a template for business cards that I can get and distribute to everybody, and then they can fill out themselves and they can get it over, and then I can get them printed up and I'm done?
I think there's not a lot on the business cards themselves. I think it is just name, board member, and then the email address. I can't recall if there's a mailing address included, but there must be a template somewhere, and that is a question that we might have to actually ask someone who's no longer on the board, whether it's Jason or Julian, because they would have been the two people that last handled placing this order. Possibly Arthur would have that information if he was the one that actually placed the order. So I would maybe start with asking Arthur if he has a record of how those were purchased, or he definitely does, but asking him how those were purchased and who made that purchase so that we can get in touch with them to figure out where that template lives. And then I think it would be valuable to ask each board member if they need business cards, because I personally still have all of mine. But my apartment again.
Catherine, so and Nick, when you follow the crumbs, the breadcrumbs into the forest, the printer will likely have the template as well if it's not more than 25 years old. If the person who placed the order does not. But can we finish up an item that we all, I think, discussed and agreed on? Will somebody send an email to the past board members giving them a deadline? And can you do that, Catherine? Should Nick do that? Who should do that? Who can do that? Who will do that?
I think that should come from Colby, since he would be the one that actually is closing out those accounts.
Okay.
So, if
feels like that could be a recommendation from this committee, right, to the executive. That's something we should let them know came out of this meeting.
Yeah, good. Good. Okay.
And I don't know, I know we do a report out. This is, I guess, a question for Catherine in terms of process. Like, well, I'll include that in the minutes. I know that we do a report out from each committee at each general board meeting, but since that's not for a couple weeks, I don't know if waiting until that meeting to share that information is necessarily the most efficient. I mean,
Paige,
sorry, go ahead. I would say, since Nick and I are both on the executive committee, we can absolutely bring it up at the executive committee meeting next week, or even easier, we can go ahead and ask for it to be included on the agenda for the executive committee. We can make that request tonight, since tonight is when Robin will be preparing the agenda for the executive committee. I'll go ahead and send that email right now.
Great.
To ask that it be included on the executive committee agenda.
Excellent.
And then, as another sort of next step, what I'll make sure we do is send a note to Lisa to make sure that we invite her to the next meeting of this committee so that we can talk with her in more detail and get some of those other questions answered.
Yeah, and if she has her copy of her contract, maybe she can send that to us, and we don't have to wait around. If she's comfortable doing that, and I don't see why she shouldn't be, since we're the ones paying her
Yeah, I don't know if that's also something that maybe before we ask her for it, just to avoid any awkwardness, like maybe that's something, Nick, you could bring up at the executive committee meeting as well, because if it's something we have somewhere on hand and we can access, then.
Okay.
Would Arthur have a copy, just out of curiosity?
What is it?
Would Arthur have a copy?
Sure.
Of Lisa's contract.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll definitely bring that up at the next. Catherine will definitely bring that up. We'll bring this. We'll bring this up at the next executive meeting for sure, because it's just got to be dealt with. It's just got to be dealt with. It's one. I mean, there's no one that doesn't agree that this is an issue. So we'll definitely deal with it for sure.
Good. Yeah, just ask for the contract at that.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. But the contract is definitely what we'll get. Yeah, for sure. Because Paige and I are going to send her an email asking her what she does. And when we get an email, if we get a response back from that, then trust me, we'll have a really good idea of what she does. And then we definitely need to get the contract as well. But I think that's going to be, I want to hear from her what she does, because that's the best. It's the best way to, if you remember the movie Office Space. So what is it you would say you do around here exactly?
I do think Catherine's point is an important one to keep in mind. It's not, she's been getting direction and she may be doing what she, so
yeah, no, I absolutely 100%.
It could just be that we need to provide, if one way that we can be helpful is coming up with a new strategy and some measurable goals, and then that would inform, what direction she gets going forward, or whether or not there's certain things that she does that may not be the best use of her time that we could manage ourselves. And maybe that would reduce the amount of how much we have to spend on it. That's another option, but I think getting the information is a good first step.
Right. Yeah. But we have to just really understand what our goal is. And I think we all know what that goal is. And I think we all know where this is going to go. So I don't think we need to talk about it much more. What we need to do is we need to get more information. Unless anybody wants to talk about it more, we can do it. But
no, I think we have some really good next steps. I think we've gotten some really good recommendations from people. I will make sure that all of that is documented in the minutes, so that we have, clear what the next steps are. And I think that about covers it as far as what's on the agenda, unless there's anything else that anybody wants to discuss.
Yeah. No, I think that's just about it. I think,
Actually, I have something, Nick. May I throw this in?
Of course.
Okay. So to give a bit more detail to what I mentioned at the top of the hour in the comment section, I took a look at our numbers. Okay. So currently, just for the record, and it would be great, Paige, if you could include this in meeting minutes. We, as of today, Wednesday, August 4th, 2021, we have 741 Twitter followers. We have 1,084 Instagram followers. We have 1,150 Facebook followers and 948 likes. I would like to know how many newsletter subscribers we have. As of approximately a year ago, I was told by a previous person on the board that we had approximately 500. So it would be good to know what that number is now exactly. I think we need to review and note the average meeting attendance, both the committee and the general board meeting attendance. We need to look at the YouTube views, number of subscribers, number of videos. We need to look at voter turnout. I think the high ranking voter was Colby with 120 some votes. I happened to look at all of the election results from every single neighborhood council, and I was frankly appalled at the turnout of some of these neighborhood councils in like single digits and double digits. I'm like, how in the world is a neighborhood council not bringing out more than 80 people? That is shocking to me. And I understand from Kelly Cole, who is the previous co-chair of this committee, that relative to the number of people in our district, which is approximately 12,500 in our neighborhood council district, our turnout is quite good. And I believe her, but I still think that the voter turnout needs to go up. And I know that Kelly has left no stone unturned, but the heavy lifting will come from these meetings where, I mean, as you said, Nick, there's so many problems to be discussed that we should have hundreds of people at these meetings. Next, and not to go on for too much longer, but how many committee members, non-board members, do we have on each committee? You know, how many of them are repeats? How many are new? And how many total? I would like to see a monthly neighborhood council report card. As mentioned earlier, Google Analytics. We need to see how many, hits we're getting on average, et cetera. Some of us understand what the analytics numbers are, and just look at what is our benchmark today. And then I have a couple of recommendations that we create a shared Google spreadsheet among us, board members or committee members, that we put all of these, we plug in all of these numbers, and we have a monthly column, July, August, September, October, November, where we can track it. And then last, that we have monthly report of committees to the board, which sort of happens already, but more of a, I'd like it to be a little bit more robust. An annual report card on us, the Greater Toluca Lake Neighborhood Council. Like, how does the public view us? Let's ask them. Do you think we're doing a good job? If not, what could we be doing better? And we have to be prepared to maybe hear things that aren't quite so nice. But that's an opportunity. If people aren't getting what they think they should be getting, we need to know about that. And lastly, Nick, you talked about this earlier, holding politicians accountable. I would like to see at least an annual, if not a quarterly, report card on our council member and other local and elected representatives. How do we think they're doing? We like what Nithya did on this, but we disagree with her on that. That sort of thing. I think that would be really, really useful. And that's going to bring out more engagement as well, because
that's a really great point, Tess, because interaction, people love it. And when people feel like they can interact with things, have a poll. Let's have a series of polls that we can, promote on our Facebook page. And I think that's a great idea.
Totally. So those are just my ideas, and I'll summarize these and send them to you if you like, because I sort of took some notes here.
I have most of it down in the minutes, so I can.
Good.
Yeah.
All right, excellent. And then I guess I forgot the last one, which is nextdoor.com. I've seen, sometimes we put polls up there. That's really good too. Like, how are we doing? What do you guys want? Do you know we exist? That sort of thing. Come to a meeting. So those are my thoughts.
Great. Those are good suggestions. And I did note the followers. Thank you for taking account of that, because that saves me time to go and look that up. And I think, your point about having, a monthly report and tracking that and having some metrics is a great one. So we'll definitely add that to the list.
Great. Thank you.
Well, I think with that, we can close the meeting. Paige, thank you so much for co-chairing the meeting with me.
Problem.
It's a pleasure to have you, to work with you on this and to have the support of everybody here. I know that all of us are really, this group in particular is a great one. And I'm really, excited to get to work here. I'm a little checked out until about next week. So I'll be here for the next couple of days. I don't know about the weekend and all that kind of stuff, but I'm just sort of on vacation. I see why a lot of people go on vacation in August. So I see why they actually usually go dark, but we got so much to do that there's too much to do. So, with that, I think we can close the meeting. If nobody has anything else.
Just go ahead and say the time that you adjourn the meeting.
Oh, right. I do apologize. So, and with that, it is 7:43 and I will adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Great. Thank you.